Hello, everybody. Welcome on the Lights On Data Show. Today, we're going to approach a real case study, one on really enhancing data discovery and literacy within Fintech. And to do so, we have two amazing guests with us, Lucia Arando and Sharad Varshney.
And I have the pleasure of introducing Lucia, who's the first time here, whereas Sharad is already a long-time friend. Lucia Arando is from Argentina. She's a software engineer. After 10 years of experience in software development engineering in different industries, she decided to step out of her comfort zone and immerse in the rising data governance field. Currently, she leads the data management team at Naranja X as part of the Center of Expertise of Big Data and Advanced Analytics. She is responsible for data governance and data quality programs, as well as for data compliance, innovating a data leadership framework as to get the most of their data assets and democratize its access to the whole company. Welcome, Lucia.
Welcome,
Thank
Lucia.
you. Thank you, Diana, for the introduction and for having me. I'm very happy to be with you today.
And we are very, very happy to have you.
And of course, our second guest, well, you must know him if you're working data management, data governance. And if you don't, well, his name is Sharad Varshney, and he's an ace technologist turned entrepreneur. Technology headlines actually put him in a list of top 50 successful Indian entrepreneurs in the US. And he has founded OvalEdge to blend his unique experience in big data technology and process management into creating a much needed data management product. And before founding OvalEdge, actually, he was a principal architect at the innovative software firm that you might have heard of called Hortonworks, now merged with Cloudera. And he has also a nuclear engineering degree from IIT, which is a premier institute of technology in India. Welcome, Sharad.
Thank you, George. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation when Lucia is here. It will be just so much fun and practical implementation. We always talk about theory a lot, but now we will see that real practical implementation, and hopefully it will be insightful for a lot of audience.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to see how an actual company has evolved in their data governance journey and embracing data literacy and data discovery, and what others can learn from it. And I think a lot of organizations, a lot of data professionals can learn from Naranja X's journey.
And talking about Naranja X, I think the biggest what's in it for me for this show for everyone listening is that it's going to be very practical. So how can OvalEdge help a company transform from that perspective? So that being said, Lucia, tell us a little bit about Naranja X, which is from Argentina. It has a very beautiful name, a very joyful color as well. What can you tell us about it?
Okay, sure. So Naranja X was founded in Córdoba, Argentina. That is the place where actually I live, 37 years ago. It started with two entrepreneurs selling apparel accessories and sports equipment until they consolidated as a leader brand in the sports industry. With the constant transformation, they reinvented themselves as the #1 credit card in Argentina.
Wow.
So Naranja X today, it's a company that provides financial services to enhance the use of the money, okay? And we basically provide services related to money management, such as accounts, prepaid cards, credit cards, loans, etc. And just to give you a dimension to you and the audience, every month over 5.5 million customers interact with our ecosystem. We have 170 branches across the country. It's a company with more than 3,000 employees, and we have more than 10 million cards in the market. So
wow.
Just to give some context.
You're serving a lot of customers.
Yes.
Those are amazing stats. Congratulations.
And of course, data plays a critical role in your company's journey. And we do have a first question here from Ravi that I want to take is, how important is data literacy for organizations today?
Okay, for me, it's like it's the main advantage. You will not survive if you not evolutionize your capability to speak with data, basically. So, for example, in our company, we are trying to revolutionize the world fintech with a very strong customer-centric approach. And we are convinced that will only be available or possible through data. And how you democratize access to data through data governance programs. So that's why mainly I always repeat that data governance is actually an enabler of a data culture in an organization, and it's absolutely necessary.
Fully agree. Absolutely. Now, let's start at the beginning. How was Naranja X before OvalEdge? What was the status of data governance, its data management program, data literacy overall?
Yes, that's a good question, because it has been a long journey and a tough one. But first thing first, we first start defining our data governance framework, including developing policies, processes, procedures, standards, like, which are going to be our roles and responsibilities, who is going to do what, identifying our industry standards and regulations, how we are going to do metadata management, how we are going to apply data security in terms to guarantee that the correct people access to the correct data for the correct purpose. So this, as you well know, it's not from one day to another. So I have an image, if I can share it. I don't know if you confirm that you are currently
absolutely
looking at it. Okay, yeah. I think that this image summarizes what our evolution was. So the first stage is chaos. It's no one knew what data we had, what it meant, who was responsible for that. The following stage is what I call relationship networking. It's when people start to connect with people that knew that knew about the data you needed, And then data governance was created and standardized in the company. So we started to aggregate all our data in domains and subdomains. Like a domain could be customers, and a subdomain could be customers' contact information, such as email, telephones. And then we develop our unique data dictionary that actually determines what metadata, technical and business, we will collect. So, and guess what we use for that? Excel, of course. We use Excel sheets to track, monitor, and manage all our metadata. So the problem is that as data that needs to be governed increased, Excel became just unfit for that purpose. And that's when we chose to move forward to Power BI that provides a vast table to input data and a search box to scour domains for metadata. So although Power BI has been a very leap forward from Excel, we still do a lot of manual tasks. So that was the inflection point that we say when we decided to move forward to a specific data governance tool, and that's how we picked OvalEdge as our tool.
How many data domains does Naranja X have right now?
We have currently we have 25 domains, but if we count the subdomains, we are more than 200.
Wow. And that includes the subdomains, or those are separate?
No, the subdomains.
Right. That's a lot for sure. And I assume you can't do everything in Excel at one point.
No, it's good for the beginning because, as I always mention, before a tool, you need to have like your processes in place and your framework, and then just pick the best tool that adapts to your processes and your state of art,
So more concretely, what were the drivers to increase the maturity of data governance?
Okay, one I already mentioned in the first question for of the audience, that it was like we have like an organizational strategy to become data driven. And if we want to be data driven, everyone in the company must have access to the data, understand it, and use it correctly. And that it's only possible with data governance, right? So another driver was that people don't use what they don't even know if it exists, you know. So we needed a front desk for our data lake. So we invest a lot of money in technology in our data lake, but we need a front end just to people find what they need and to explore new opportunities also, right? And we need it in a fast and very easy way. So that was another driver. On the other perspective, we based our data governance program through data stewardship. And with that in mind, we need to keep our data stewards really engaged. And it was necessary to have a data catalog just to activate and formalize the accountability from them. Because that is when they realize or they understand why they're doing what they do and the reasons that they are doing for. And lastly, that I a little bit mentioned when I talk about our evolution, it's the automatization, right? It's like before going with the tool, we gather all the technical metadata manually, let's say. So besides it's a very complex process, data became outdated very, very fast. So we needed definitely to automatize that if we wanted to move forward. So that are the main drivers, I believe.
You know, when I hear organizations talk about their drivers, often they put the carrot and the stick. And a lot more times you hear about the stick. Well, you know, we're going to be fine if we're not going to. We're going to maybe go to jail. We're going to, you know, right, get some really big fines if we're not compliant to our regulations.
Yes, but what is the best that you can expect if the only driver are regulations? The best you can ever hope to reach is to be compliant.
Yes.
For me, that it's boring. Sorry. So I prefer to go forward and to align with the business strategy. You know.
Absolutely, and I think that's the way to go, and one of the keys to success. But at the same time, I feel it's challenging. It's really challenging to gain that support internally. To mention that, hey, this is what we want to do and how to get our leaders on board. So how was support gained to invest in a tool that at one point you realize, okay, we can't handle everything in Excel anymore? And I think a lot of organizations and people here can relate to this. How, what was that message given to leadership, or what was the business case to gain that support?
It's a good question. I think that people tend to avoid what they don't understand. So the first thing that you should guarantee is that people understand the why. Why data governance? Why that will solve any of my problems? Don't go with the technical automation metadata, because there is not the way. So I think that a good approach is to empathize with their daily data problems and start from there. And if you allow me, I brought just to make my point, right? But a situation or a scenario that is commonly in the organizations. But let's think about George, right? George works in the marketing team, and he starts working on Monday and asks himself, okay, I would love to know what are the number of new accounts in the last month. It's like a basic KPI, right?
Yeah.
So he doesn't know where to start. So he throw the question into Slack in a channel where there are 300 employees there, hoping that someone answers. Okay, so he waits the answer, and one soul answered him, indicated that Diana, who works with that data, that can perhaps she can help him. So George is redirected for the first time. So George automatically sent a direct message to Diana asking for the second time the same question, okay? And Diana lastly redirected him again, because he only had the information about the online journey, right? So half of the data that George needed. And she suggested to ask the data team. So George asked to the data team, and the data team indicates the table's name where that data is, and also the link to access the data lake. So George starts to feel very anxious because he's looking like light at the end of the tunnel, right? But when he clicks on the link to access the data lake, oh my God, access denied. The annoying message of you have not access to this resource. So again, George sent an SOS message into Slack asking for how can I get access to our data lake, please? So he waits again until, okay, finally they give them the access to the data lake. He accesses the table and starts seeing columns like, okay, activation date, onboarding date, creation date. And he starts asking himself, okay, what this means, which date I should consider for my
Right.
KPI. So again, he finally starts searching and hunting subject matter experts into the organization that can help him. And again, ends up in the big data team or data team that can give him all the context and the metadata basically to answer the question. So finally, we are at Friday and George starts working. So this is, of course, a parody, of course, but how many Georges do we have in the companies? And I think that this is a very common scenario and a way to empathize and show to our sponsors what is happening and how inefficient we are with this situation. So just to give you an idea.
No, thank you so much for sharing that visual. It was, I think I can still relate to it. I mean, it's a long, winding road, and it's a lot about the people that you know in the company. The more people that you know, the better for you because you know who to ask. It's a lot of bureaucracy. It takes a lot of time, like you described in this case, to get access. And I'm reading a lot of articles on the topic, and a lot of them are mentioning that data accessibility, data discoverability, it's really one of the longest time frames to take, and so much time wasted to go through this process. And so many inefficiencies are created because of it. And of course, at the end, you also don't know, once that's been given access to, well, who is accessing it, what for. It's hard to keep track of all of these, right? And for how long exactly. There are so many implications on this. Absolutely. And Sharad, I wonder, how does OvalEdge come into play here? How would it help a company like Naranja X?
So I think that before, I will give you one more example in this because it's so funny. I was at one of the largest top 4 company working as a consultant. Used to charge something like $400 an hour for my rate because I was the architect, right? A super architect at that time frame. So, and I supposed to start the work next day, and they said, okay, we need a data to start the working for whatever the use case was. I said, oh, okay, we will get it. So tomorrow, okay, that's fine. So we started looking for it. They started looking for it internally. They created the project. They need the work done. They hired us, a bunch of people, and not only me. There are 5 people of us. They hired 5 of us to start working, and they didn't have access to it. And like, you imagine the $400 an hour multiplied by 5, and it's getting multiplied, right? Said, oh, okay, finally there is a person. After 3 days, they know that who is the person who can give us access. Okay, so after 3 days, there was a DBA who could have given us access to it, but his backlog was long, and he doesn't care that how much this project is getting charged. He was like, oh, okay, like I have my to-do list, I will go based on that. And he was going into his to-do list, and it took us, because we needed a data, we were an outside consultant, so they need to obfuscate that data, right? So they said, oh, they need to obfuscate this data. It will take you a long time. So how long? So they were just negotiating, and our billing rate is just going. And we were a consultant. We were supposed to do something. So we found some other work here and there, kind of like to justify that, yes, we were there. But frankly speaking, this is how it works in the real practical life. It took us 1.5 months before we get to the access to the data. Wow. And you can imagine that the counter is doing. So it is the exact number. Like I that's the light bulb I throw to me, like, why it takes that long.
Right.
And it was like a global company, top five global companies in tax fields, and they just didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
So it is the nature of the business is like that the most companies do not have this program. In OvalEdge, it's what we did it is we combined the data access management capability, data literacy capability, as well as all these capabilities into it, so people can discover the data by themselves. So they can find, so that before they can find, they need to assign the roles and responsibility. There is a program need to be assigned. The who's owns what kind of data. So you assign that person. And then after that, once you know that, okay, you are searching by themselves like a Google search, you search it, you find the table or the report, whatever you're looking for, and you see that, oh, okay, this is this particular table and who owns this table. And once you know this information, it's easy then after that, okay, I need to request access from this particular table, and you press the button there and you get access, and then get workflows, and everything is automated and integrated. So maybe next day you will get access to the table, rather than waiting for 10 days or a month and a half and a month. So
Absolutely.
it's the integrated experience which allow you to do that. And it's not only the tool, but there is a program you run in, and before that is equally important. You identify the right people to put it the proper roles and responsibility in place as well. And as well as you put a proper description of the table as well. So suppose the table name is T, because as a developer writes most of the table name, right? TAB or something like that. If the table name is that way and doesn't have the right descriptions, then also it would be the same. It will only solve a little bit problem, not solve the entire problem. So there is the process which need to go through it, like writing the proper descriptions, writing the proper domain information about it, like keeping the data literacy turned on, as well as assigning the roles and responsibility, and then putting everything together in an integrated tool can give you that experience. It's much easier.
Thank you, Sharad. And I have a question, a follow-up question for you and Lucia. Do you start then identifying those data owners at that data domain level, high up first, and then you move down all the way to the table? Or do you start from the bottom up, table level, and then you work out and see what domain they take part of and who the owner should be there? Or it's a mix between the two?
I think it's a mix. In our case, we are driven or triggered by use cases, and mainly our use cases are from advanced analytics, because we are within a center of expertise of big data and advanced analytics. So let's think that we are going to develop a fraud detection model, and so we start thinking and hunting or searching which data do we need for that model. So once we got the subdomain, let's say, or the group of data that model needs, we start then looking into the organization, who is the best one, who is the subject matter expert of this group of data. And that's how we assign our data stewardship, because we started from the beginning, take a domain and go forward, but it's really difficult to show value to the business. So we attached our data governance program actually to our use cases. And that's how we iteratively, with this cycle of gathering consumers and producers, and guarantee that information is governed, curated, and shared, we are continually adding value into the business.
Fantastic approaches. Ravi is mentioning. Awesome session so far. Thank you, Kate. We have a follow-up here from Tejbir, and he's wondering if you can elaborate on challenges identifying data roles within the data domains, if you had those challenges, of course.
I think that the main challenge is to shift old paradigms, because what we encounter is that when we have an idea of who's going to be the data steward of this data, right? And when we do the onboarding to that person just look at you and say, what? That is not my role. I have no time in my backlog for that. Why I'm responsible for that activities of data governance, data management. And actually what ends happening is that you start talking with them, and actually they create the data, they consume it on a daily basis. So I will ask you the other way around. Why do you think you are not responsible for that data? So that again, I think that the main challenge is change management to shift these old paradigms within the organization, and just to make that change with that cultural change in people, that everyone is in charge or responsible for data. And so we have different like hats to put into the organization depending on the subdomains and the domains that we have.
I love it. Whenever I hear about change management, my heart.
Yes, you are the expert here. But I think that is basic, you know.
Yes, for all the transformation, the small and the big ones as well. And now a question for both. How was the move and the onboarding to OvalEdge?
Okay, I start if you want, Sharad. We actually, at the beginning, start with the POC, with the proof of concept. So we did some workshops just to learn how to use and configure the tool. And after we integrated OvalEdge with Snowflake, in our case, that is the tool that we use to exposure our data, we crawl all the technical metadata, and we schedule the jobs for data profiling. And I remember that day literally, because it was really exciting to see all that data coming to OvalEdge and all gathered, displayed into the tool. It was really amazing. So of course we did some customizations to adapt, again, as I mentioned, the tool to our processes. But it was quite simple to do it. And then we import all the existing data dictionaries, because as I mentioned, we started with Excels. So we have also a stage of importing all the existing data into the tool. And after 3 months of the POC, we did the rollout into production.
And the rollout still focused on the Snowflake environment?
Yes, we scale up. Now we are also integrated into Power BI, so we are cataloging our dashboards and main reports. And now we have a plan to move forward to another sources, of course.
And out of curiosity, then, all the different data sources that you have internally, you concatenate and you put into a data warehouse format in Snowflake?
Exactly.
And that's where you consume it from.
Actually, behind Snowflake, we have our data lake that it's in AWS, and then we synchronize the layer of stage from our data lake into Snowflake, and use Snowflake as our tool for exploitation.
And that's on a daily basis.
Exactly.
And Sharad, of course, OvalEdge can connect to a plethora of platforms as well, not just Snowflake.
Yeah, so Snowflake, AWS, SQL servers, and Power BI, Tableaus, and whatnot. So we have like variety of connectors which crawls the data from these systems and put it into OvalEdge. So the one thing I will take that in that input is that after 3 months she was live into with the real production, right? So that's the power of the product, because we have seen in many enterprises, if you do not use OvalEdge kind of like agile product, people have like I know that there are companies waited for a year worth of time without OvalEdge to kind of go live with data governance processes and something. So this is the power of our product, which makes it like crawling exercise is pretty easier. Of course, sometimes you get a technical difficulties, frankly speaking, because it's just because there's so many environments, there's so many connection behavior, there's so many of those. Snowflake is comparatively easier because this is a standard environment. But like if you have a SQL server, if you have a Oracle, and if you have Hadoop, for example, in Hadoop itself, you have 100 different ways to connect, right? So always there is a connectivity challenge are there. But generally, then we build our support team to support that. And we are hoping that our support team will be able to make things easier for our customers to kind of go and make sure that it works for that. And then after that, it's and then once you have the connectivity established, after that is you crawl it and then you profile it, and then you get all this information into one place. and you start implementing and rolling out use case by use cases. Data governance again is not a project; it's a program, it's a culture, it's never ends. It never ends.
Right.
But it's still, but can you go live with few use cases very quickly and then still working on the multiple use cases after use cases after use cases? That's the way of progressive way of moving the data governance rather than putting all the use case at the one and then start go live on it.
Absolutely. Do you think we need a data governance policy in place? So Subham is wondering here, and how is maybe that taken care of? Does that need to be put in place before you start to invest further in data governance?
I think yes, that would be the answer. As I mentioned, we start before the tool. We start defining our framework, and that includes our policies. So in our case, in our experience, we focus on our data lake and our use cases. And with the experience rolling, we in parallel start defining which is going to be our policy, which are going to be the roles involved there. What can we do and what can't we do? How we are going to classify data, how we are going to control access to data lake. So that's how we did it.
And Sharad, I wonder, usually all of these things that Lucia mentioned is what a company handles internally, or when you're introducing OvalEdge within the company, even though it might be part of the pilot, do you offer any resources or any recommendations or anything like that?
So this is something that we have recently built something called academy.ovaledge.com. So if anybody have any, so we are still in the process of building it. There are four, I believe 3 or 4 chapters are already there, which is like Data Governance 101, which have nothing to do with our OvalEdge. It's mostly around like how do you set up your committees, how do you set up your organization, data governance organization, how do you set up the data literacy program, how do you set up your domain, how do you identify it? So all these information which came out actually learning with implementing at Narayana and many other customers, and kind of like is a combination of the practical knowledge, I would say that. And it's whatever is coming out of academies has been actually implemented at multiple places, et cetera, and kind of like really a good piece of information I have not seen anywhere else. You can see like the practical knowledge into it, and we kind of summarize it in a very easy fashion. It's a video format, so people can just watch it and easily learn it. So that is the format we are in the process of creating it right now, because we have seen that customers buying the product first, and then after that they are putting they realize they don't have a policies, they don't have this one, because it's something that people decide, okay, I want to do something, because sometimes you need a product to kind of configure all these things, and so they don't want to start in a spreadsheet, they want to start in OvalEdge directly. So they didn't know that much, so that's fine. Like, so you can learn it, and after that. The one thing I also like to say is if you use standard policies, like for example PII policies, right? So it's pretty standard. You know what the governance rules are. There's a GDPR, there's a CCPA. These are different regulation for privacy policies are there, right? Yeah. So these are pretty standard now. Like for confidential data in sales, so what kind of policies is needed. You need to protect your revenue number. You need to protect your, the ROI numbers. So whatever the numbers you want to protect in the sales side. Of course, there are some financials. There is a healthcare industry. They all have different kind of, the domain which they need to configure it. But writing a high level policy is something you can start small, and then you can put details to that as well. So it's not that what I've seen is that it's not that policy is sacrosanct. It cannot be changed. If the constitution can be changed, then our policies can be changed as well. So
we are constantly updating that policy. Yeah. Because everything evolves, So the key is what Sharad said now. Don't expect to have first the policy complete 100% and then start doing things, right? Start doing things, and while you started, you start writing down your policies.
great advice. And there's a lot of PII in fintech for sure.
Yes, and I also have a question here from Becca. Do you have any suggestions for protecting PII?
Sharad, I don't know. Or
Yeah, so I can take that.
okay.
So protecting the PII is a crucial element in basically whether you have a Snowflake environment, etc. Right? So the one is that writing the policy that okay, what my policy says that I want like the one of the confidential data of the PII to be protected, like social security number, email, or maybe those kind of information. But I'm okay to see some of the information like first name, last name, the families, etc., etc. So you decide what is the right way. GDPR actually prescribes you that what you should do. You should do it really. So that is the easier way to do that. You can take the same policy and put it there. And after that, there is in OvalEdge we have a mechanism to do complete data access management, which is like you configure those security rules, and it goes to go push down into Snowflake as well. So that is a new model which we have developed. Is you develop everything in OvalEdge and then it will go push down into Snowflake. So if the data is in social security number, it will be masked. If the data is and it's a combination of Snowflake and OvalEdge combined, because Snowflake also have a capability to mask those kind of things, and OvalEdge basically push down that capability to mask it. So
yes, actually that's the way we are currently doing. We use dynamic data masking in Snowflake. So we write there our policies and apply that policies and that masking at the column level. But the good thing is that we have all classified and identified in OvalEdge. So I search for all the PII policy that applies, and then I check that all that data actually it's correctly masked and the policies are okay.
Yes. Yeah, so that's the way to do it. Yeah.
And Sharad, can you visually also see where PII is being used?
Yes, so there are reports available in OvalEdge where you can run that, okay, give me all the data, which is the PII. So you will see that all the data in the PII, and that report is generally needed for compliance review point of view as well. So some of the auditors need that report. So you can just develop that report very quickly and give it to your auditors, wherever the PII is. It can be in Snowflake or can be, and the data in Snowflake or in data lake is coming from somewhere. It is coming from either from SQL Server or from applications. You have the Lineage capability as well to kind of see where the data is coming from. And you can really also put that also into the system.
Sharad, William here is wondering how clear is the lineage visual in OvalEdge for a data element that has 50 plus connections, because their current product looks like spaghetti after a certain amount, and it's probably undistinguishable. What I also recommend to Williams to go and try OvalEdge, because you can try for free and really check it out with your own data and see how it would fare for that.
So that is this is one of our number one selling feature, like Lineage, because yes, the 50 thing, it doesn't. So visually, it is we represent at multiple level. So we represent at the schema level, which is like, okay, you can see it easily. If we represent at object level, which is like table, file, report, and we represent at the column level, right? So it's not everything at one. So we kind of divide it into these three areas. So when you look at the table level, then you can look at the column level as well. So you are not looking at everything at the column level and but still at the table level, you will see mostly in production, you will see hundreds of tables are moving out from here and there, but they have a zooming out and zooming in functionality, kind of zoom in, zoom out, and see what is there, what is not there. But the generally for Lineage, the use case for the Lineage is, of course, you need to understand one aspect to another aspect. That's one part of it. But most of the time, the Lineage is like this particular Lineage is used by data engineers to do the impact analysis. A lot of our customers do this for impact analysis, where they want to know, if something is changing at the source, what is the downstream reports is getting affected. So what we have is a way of mechanism of developing a kind of a tool separate, which is not a visual tool, which is a listing tool, which can give you, okay, these are my 5 element is changing, give me all the things which is getting affected, and then you can filter it, you can sort it, you can figure it out what is getting affected because of that. The output of the lineage comes down in a kind of a spreadsheet kind of system where you can see, okay, this is the things are getting changed, what I need to do it. Because visually you can only comprehend things which can be visualized onto this 14-inch screen or 15-inch screen, right? That's why sometimes the representation need to be visual, sometimes it need to be by a spreadsheet kind of interface. So we support both of them, and it depends upon the interface to interface what is right for you to understand that.
Thank you, Sharad.
Yeah.
So, Lucia, can we talk a little bit, now that you have used OvalEdge for some time, can we look back and where Naranja X was before, where is it now, how it has improved, anything that stands out to you?
Okay, that's a good one. Basically, when we started, we have only 2 data stewards and almost 1,000 attributes governed, let's say. And currently, we have 36 data stewards enrolled in our data program. And we have almost 65% of our data lake governed. That represents more than 8,000 attributes.
Wow.
For us, it's a milestone. But that I always say that are the rough metrics for a data governance program. But we like to see other metrics because our aim is that all company uses data for taking decisions. So we actually, what we monitor is our metrics about our data lake usage. Why? Because if I can guarantee that people are using our data lake, it's because I'm doing the correct things. People are searching and are finding what they need, and they are using it, and they are confident on it. So metrics like, active Snowflake users, or how many queries executed I have it per day, or which are my heavy users in the company. That are metrics that for us make a lot of sense.
And Chandan had a question that I think you've partially answered here. If we can have some insights on scorecard development in-house for core finance sectors. And I'm not exactly sure, Chandan, what scorecard you are referring to. I wonder if it's a data governance scorecard, to which part of Lucia's answer, I think, suffices. Yes. Right? You count how many users you have, how many data stewards, how many attributes, and so forth.
Yes, actually, I wanted to add that we created a initiative that it's called data transparency, and what it tends to give us is it's like a BI of BI. It's like we as data governance, we need to know what is happening with our data, how our users are using it. So we have a lot of logs out there. I swear there are a lot, and we are not using it, and we are data. It's like, okay, come on. So we gather all those logs into our in a dashboard, and we actually have a lot of tracking about what is happening in our data. And that other use case that you mentioned to do impact analysis, we use that information. Like we can see who is accessing which data object, and just say, hey, okay, I will change the name, or something is going to be changed in that table. So,
right. And then all of this, did you find that it had an impact on the quality of the data as well?
Well, actually, we have a separate process for data quality because we have a very customized, let's say, data quality measurements. I don't know if you, Sharad, want to comment what is the roadmap for data quality in OvalEdge.
So we are still little bit, I would say, not super mature in the data quality, but what we are focusing on in OvalEdge is mostly data quality improvement lifecycle, which means that when customer sees a problem in the data quality, they report the problem, right? So when they report the problem, then after that, the data governance team or data quality part of the data governance team can look up at all the issues which they gather, because the data literacy is everybody can see the problem. So we are encouraging more people to kind of report the problem in the data. Then after that, once you get the information there, that, okay, these are the issues, now the objective is find the root cause of it. So the Lineage helps them to find the root cause, that okay, the data is actually coming here in the source system, and people are going to report the problem in the data quality at the report level most of the time, because mostly people consume the report. So they report the problem at the report, but the mostly problem is not at the report. Mostly problem at the source system. The country code are two, USA and United States. So both are not matching correctly at the reporting level. So that is the problem, right? So when they find at the source system there is a problem, then again, the ownership has been identified, the stewardship has been identified. Then they they create the backlog for the source people, that okay, these are the problem at the source system, and you should fix this, correct the country code from USA to United States so that everything is consistent, so the report looks perfect. And then you fix it. And then after that, you kind of do this complete improvement, and then kind of the workload can be fixed by the backlogs. And then the ticket can be created in Jira or ServiceNow, or whatever the system you are using. You can push down those tickets to them, and then they can fix the problem. And then once the problem is fixed, you can fix it. There is another approach of generally companies use is in data quality rules. They want to write rules into that to make sure the data is happening. Mm-hmm. We have the data quality rules in OvalEdge. You can write the rules mostly but we use the source system processing power. So if you have want to write the rules in Snowflake, that is fine, because Snowflake have a lot of processing power. There's no issue on that. Suppose you want to write the rules on S3, then it is difficult because S3 does not have processing power. You need to use an engine for doing the process, something Spark or something like that. Mm-hmm. So those are the some challenges I would say that we are coming up with in our data quality module part of it. But the rules, if you want to write on the systems which already comes with the processing power, that is easy to write, and you can do this. And then once the rule failed, then you want to alert somebody, hey, this particular thing failed, and that you can alert some of your user who's the right domain experts or to appropriate person. Those functionalities are there in the product. But most of the time, customers say, oh, I have data in S3, I want to write a rule, and they do not understand that S3 does not have processing power in it, and you need an engine for data quality for writing the processing power part of it. And most of the time, what we are seeing is that a IT team mostly are focused too much on the data quality rules writing, right. And on the business team, they want to do on data quality improvement lifecycle, because they want to report their problem and let IT fix it, right? And IT say, okay, can you somebody proactively tell me that where the problems is coming from? So that we see that different kind of use cases emerging in the data quality aspect of things. Again, we are trying to address both of them, but we have like data quality, which is the business team, the data quality improvement lifecycle is the key area, which gives the business ability as well as IT understanding where the issue is coming from. Because if you fix the root cause of the problem, then the chances of this not happen again, right? So why you need to protect again and again and again and again, measure it, because it's expensive to measure every day. Anything you want to measure every day and hope that it will create an alert, it's better to fix the root cause of the problem and not have to do this again and again. So that is where because ultimately you cannot measure each and everything in all dimensions of the data quality. It's just not practically possible, right? In whatever kind of resources you use, or your bill of Snowflake will go to $1 million a year or something like that. Because the consumption model, they will love to write every rules in the Snowflake, but you need to put the money also into I always think the money is a crucial aspect of absolutely every data object.
Yeah, and a great driver for tackling the root cause, like you mentioned, and fixing the issue, not the effect. And I also think that having data discoverability increase and data accessibility increase also puts data quality in the front center a bit more, right? Because more people now are aware, okay, well, we have a problem here. Let's try and fix it.
Exactly.
Absolutely. We have a question here for
from Kyla. And it's wonderful to see Kyla, the inventor of Edgy.
Edgy, which is the OvalEdge mascot. We loved Edgy. So, Lucia, how did you prepare to increase data literacy? What processes or practices did you have to prepare beforehand?
Okay, perfect. Kyla, thank you for the question. As I mentioned, it's not only responsibility for a data governance team. So I talked about a change management and a cultural change that needs to be happening inside the company. So in Naranja X, we created a data academy that it's compulsory for certain key roles in the company. And in that data academy, we make sure we have all the training videos. So what is OvalEdge, or what is our data catalog, how we use it, for what we use it. And just to train our users in that culture to make it a habit. And as you just mentioned, that as soon as everyone starts consuming data, data quality issues will arise. And I always say that this is a community, one of the things that we promote is collaboration within the organization. So that's another thing that we constantly communicate and ask for our users and consumers. And within OvalEdge, they can do endorsements or put red flags if something it's going wrong, So we have a lot of things. It's not only data governance for data literacy, we need to have technical training also. So mainly with our data academy, and we also have what we call data seats. They're data analytics roles that are in the squads, in business squads, just to be with the business and try to cascade on hands-on how to use data and take decisions with data.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
honestly,
love it.
Yes, that's a great idea. And thank you very much for sharing this insight. I think it's very valuable.
Sahara is mentioning a great solution. Loving it. So, Lucia and Sharad, as we're approaching the end of our episode here, do you have any recommendations for companies that are embarking on their data governance program, or they're aiming to improve the one that they currently have?
Yeah, I think that I mentioned during the whole session, but I will love to close with this one, and I believe that Diana would love to. But change management has been continuously underestimated, and change is not a matter of ability, it's a matter of motivation. So we need to invest the necessary time and effort to understand what motivates our people. So that's my last message.
So important. I have one more question. We had the pleasure of meeting the OvalEdge team at a conference, and we loved the culture, we loved the people, their drive. And I wanted to ask you, Lucia, how was it to work with OvalEdge? What was your experience?
Okay, the first thing is that it has been a challenge because of two things. One is because we are a Spanish-speaking nation. In Argentina, we speak in Spanish, and work with a supplier that it's in India, half in India and half in the United States. It has been a challenge, but it has been amazing because, as you felt it, Diana, they are very good people. I don't know how to explain, but very human, and you feel that they are there for you and to help you, and they really want your data governance program to be a success, not only just install the tool and God bless you, So, and the time frames, that is another challenge because we have different time zones in India, United States, and Argentina, but everything has been a very nice challenge.
That's great to hear. And, I agree that I think OvalEdge realizes that your success is their success. And they're just also knowledgeable, and they bring so much more than the tool, but so much insights and best practices and lessons that they can provide to the people that they're collaborating with. And that's great to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much for the session. To both of you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here, Lucia. And thank you for the insights and for sharing so much of your own experience and of your own expertise in your company and the best practice, and also the experience with OvalEdge. And as always, Sharad, thank you for the insights.
Thank you. Thank you. It is. I believe that hopefully this session was quite insightful, even insightful for me
Yes.
as well, quite a bit. I learned something new today as well. So thank you,
Yes.
Lucia, for the session.
My pleasure.
Thanks.
I really enjoy it.
Yeah,
It
thanks,
was-
George and Diana. It was really being is just amazing on this show.
This
Thank you as well.
Yes, we have great feedback from the listeners as well. And thank you everyone for being here and for being so engaged and for asking all these questions that led to an amazing discussion. I am really, really happy with this session, and I'm very grateful for both of you for being here and for everyone that you are here as well. I wish everyone a happy weekend.
Happy weekend.
And all the
Too.
best. Good luck with everything, with the amazing things that you do, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Bye.
Bye.